The Hail Varsity Radio Saturday Morning Show, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Strap yourselves in. Here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt.
Y'all don't even know he was a virgin until he's 28, and now, roll tide.
And Mark Kraynak.
Time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me.
Welcome to it, weekend editions here at Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. We are in the Single Barrel, the amazing steakhouse you need to be at if you're a Nebraska football fan. The Northwestern buses are, well, they're started.
Yeah.
And Northwestern will matriculate out and load and take off for 10th and Vine here shortly. Chris Schmidt, Mark Kraynak.
I got a bit of an issue with that. What are they, 3 blocks from the stadium? 4? You're going to get on a bus?
So you're going to tell them to walk?
You guys are in peak physical condition. You can't walk 4 blocks. It's not like they're carrying their pads. A truck handles all that stuff. Come on, Northwestern.
We are here till 5, the weekend edition morning show. We are doing the old Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, it's kind of
Sunday Night Football flex scheduling. So this weekend and next for primetime extravaganza coverage.
What was that Michigan final?
I thought it was 38-10.
All right.
But you have 5 Wisconsin turnovers.
Okay.
So I'm thinking more like 21-10.
Okay. I'm going to look it up.
You get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Mark Kraynak, Chris Schmidt. Follow us.
I got thoughts today.
ESPNLincoln.com is where you stream us. At ESPN Lincoln Facebook is where you find us. Elijah Herbal is back at our ESPN studio. So we're here till 5 on the show, 38-17.
38-17 final, including 18 points in the fourth from Michigan.
And a lot of those were turnovers. Again, Wisconsin's main quarterback, who was not great anyway.
Cincinnati's getting all up in Notre Dame right now, too. 17, nothing there.
Yeah, that's over. And you have Lane and Saban going at it. Kraynak, I like this here for the folks watching on Facebook. You've got the black shirt Chenander thing going. I like it, brother.
This was a Hail Varsity special edition.
I know, and you got it, and I didn't.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, I know.
You got a lot of other perks, though.
You do. That's good. That's good. So numbers to get in. If you're on your way to the ball game, can dial up. Throw us a prediction, 466-3776 or 800.
I got thoughts, man.
825-5865. Rewind coming up with former Northwestern coach Gary Barnett in hour 2. Brandon Vogel will join us at around 4:06. And then live and in person, the Iron Horse himself, Gary Sharp, will be on site with us. Our sit-down with Nick Henrich around 4:50 before we skedaddle.
He sounds surprisingly like Ronnie Green.
He sounds like Ronnie Green.
Did you know that?
Oh, completely.
Did you think that too?
I didn't know if I was.
Did you put 2 and 2 together there?
I almost called him Ronnie.
Seriously.
I'm kidding. I did
Listen
not.
to him.
How about Nebraska's middle linebacker play? How about Nebraska's front 7? How about Nebraska's defense? Any ball game left on this schedule. Nebraska's in it, be it Michigan next week, be it Northwestern tonight, be it Minnesota, who survived in the rain at Purdue to move to 3 into 20-13. Nebraska's defense will pack their hard hat and keep them in.
Yeah, well, that's what you think. You know what it is, though, man? I was thinking about it on the way here. It is recalibration time. Like, we don't realize it because we're in it. So let's just back up a little.
Let's take the 30,000-foot view.
You know, as they say in like corporate America. Like, seriously, let's just back up a little bit. Let's remember this, and this is not in defense of Frost. I'm going to put out this disclaimer now because I don't know
if it's going to work out. Saturday?
Well, I'm going to put out this disclaimer of this is not in defense of Frost, but I think it is time to recalibrate, and I think we are looking at a program that is doing just that.
There's some examples of how.
Dude, okay, rewind to 2018 when Frost gets announced. I think he was actually announced in 17, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
For the 2018 season. 7 years. People forget that. 7 years, $35 million. And who was pissed about that? Nobody was pissed about the 7 years.
You were happy he took Nebraska's $5 million over Florida's, over Central Florida's.
And embedded within that 7 years, which is unheard of. Everybody gets 4 years. Nobody gets 7. Who gets a 7-year contract?
5. Well, you get 7, and then you get 2 tacked on. So you're at 9.
But who gets a 7-year contract? Nobody gets a 7-year contract. So embedded within that, because I don't remember a single call, a single email, single text being like, what the hell are we doing 7 years? Nobody was pissed about that because
you get what you pay for, you're supposed to.
Well, embedded within that, though, is the realization that this is a project. Because what he was inheriting, I'm not talking about talent, I'm not talking about speed, I'm talking about just a mental train wreck of a program.
Culture.
A mental train wreck of a program. You saw people forget when I start seeing this stuff comparing Frost to like Riley's years. Just stop.
Riley pissed away like 2 11-win teams.
Dude.
Legit.
Listen.
They got 9.
Does anybody remember Penn State, Iowa down the stretch, 2017? I mean, that team had folded the tent.
Ohio State?
Oh. Dude, I mean, it didn't even belong on the same field.
They didn't want to play.
They did not want to play the sport of football. Literally. Right? And Travis Fisher has even talked about that. He talked about that early, just like, hey, we're just trying to get guys that love football, that like to play, I don't know, the sport they're on frickin' scholarship for. So that's what we are dealing with right now. And here's what the plan was for Frost. I don't know why I'm thinking this is recalibration
Long
time, but I
runway.
really do.
No, it is because you've seen progress. You've seen Nebraska coulda, woulda, shoulda the last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And now you get to see them bounce back after absolute emotional gut wrench. You're going to see a new group on the offensive line. You're going to see an angry, pissed-off defense.
Yep.
And you're going to see Nebraska needing to do what they couldn't the last 2 weeks because Northwestern will out-coach you. Northwestern will out-execute you. Northwestern will be patient, but they won't out-talent you.
No. This is the least impressive collection of athletes or collection of players that Northwestern
go down the hall and tell them.
I'm just saying. Now, they could kick my ass. I'm just saying. No, but when you look at offense, so here was the plan coming in. I think you give him 7 years because embedded within that is the understanding that it was going to be a mental project, 1. And then 2, you want to give him the room to make mistakes. That's why you give him 7 years. And listen, his plan offensively coming in sounded like a good plan. It failed. We are currently looking at an offense that is completely recalibrating. His ideas of what he was going to run on offense didn't work out. And guess what? It ain't going to work out. That style is not going to work, but you gave him 7 years knowing you didn't know exactly what. But you gave him room. You gave him rope to make mistakes, recalibrate, figure stuff out. He wanted to be a go-fast, no-huddle offense, but then everybody that could actually contribute to that transferred away. He didn't know that there were going to be those kind of problems, but there are, right? And so now he knows that. Now he knows the types of guys that he has to recruit. He understands sort of the lay of the land of the Big Ten and blah, blah, blah. So they're totally recalibrating offensively.
The football, it's possessions, it's Big Ten football. The thing I wonder about is, to your recalibration point, can you recalibrate how you're going to run the football? Because you have certain offensive linemen that look like Iowa and Wisconsin.
Mismatch parts, right?
But they are not doing or able to do what you want to do with your scheme.
Mm-hmm. Right, that's what I'm saying. We are looking at this is a transitional year. We don't want to admit it, but that's what's happening. You know how everybody talks about the offense doesn't have an identity? Well, it had one, but then its parts didn't quite match it. So you're in transition now. You were building it around guys like Luke McCaffrey, like Wan'Dale, they ain't here. And those are their own issues. I'm not excusing that. But again, you gave him 7 years to have things like that happen. And I think what you're starting to see is a guy that realizes, listen, Nebraska was a Big Ten team back when it was in the Big 8. They just had a mobile quarterback. You know what I'm saying? I think he's sort of they're a Big Ten team basically.
There's a lot of gray area crossover with Nebraska, Big 8, Big 12, Big 10.
They were like a Big Ten team playing in the Big 8. with a mobile quarterback. Their style was very much that. And I think he's coming to the realization, and this stuff takes time, though. These are tectonic shifts. They're not immediate shifts.
You can't microwave an offensive line.
No.
There's no...
Thank you, microwave, yes.
There's no hurry up and be great like Rob Zadiska or Lundberg or Graham or Stye by your sophomore year, but that's third year in the program. We're talking about kids who are into year 2 and 3 in the program, but they're not into year 3 or 4 starting.
No.
It's not uniform across the board. So this isn't excuse making. This is reality. And your case in point to recalibration. Immediately they knew defensively, what do we got to do? We got to get bigger and stronger and faster. And you look at the growth, and you can see this eventually on offense, but you're seeing it pay off year 3.5 on defense, because after 2018 Iowa, they went to work, they recruited different, they developed different, and they just said we better get damn tough against the run.
Yeah.
And you've seen the super senior influence pay off, and and then you've seen some young guys like a Henrich, like a Reimer, and then you've seen guys that have been in the program like Nelson, and of course like Caleb Tanner. They're playing good ball. Yeah. They're playing smart, good football. On the edge, you can't run at Nebraska's edge. You got heat-seeking missiles coming in like Dismuke and Williams. Yep. And then your defensive line is pretty deep and pretty good. Elijah, you wanted to jump in real quick.
Yeah, and to continue on your point, you said the microwave. Well, what's happened with the defense here is you put a brisket in and let it go low and slow at 200 for 8 hours. And the offense, they're putting a brisket in at 500 and trying to get it cooked up all in one season every single year. Put it in at 500 and it comes out chewy and bad every single time.
and there ain't enough rub to put on that bad boy to be
so true,
to be worth it, because, and we'll say the rub is your quarterback and your skill guys.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it ain't about the rub.
It is what it is.
The rub will only take you so far.
It's about the smoke ring.
The rub will only take you so far.
The rub will elevate that brisket if it's been cooked right, but if it hasn't been cooked right, you're just going to say, well, okay, this brisket tastes all right, but I mean, I can't even chew it.
So look at defense. Hell of an analogy. Look at defense right now. And remember what they were saying back in the day. We got guys that don't even like the sport. And that was kind of obvious because they were really giving up at the end of the Mike Riley era. There were people that seriously did not like the sport of football. And there's a lot of people that transferred, quit, whatever. You can't say that about the defense now. Like, to a man, you can tell those dudes love it. They love the grind. They know what the defense is. They know it inside and out. And they execute it. Right? Offensively, you tried to do this go fast thing. Frost, I remember calling him out about it from the beginning, where he's like, well, what we're going to do is we're going to combine Husker power.
It's a great idea.
With Oregon speed. I'm like, so Alabama? Is that basically what you're saying? Like, you're just going to, why didn't I think about it? Get them huge and super fast. Like, good luck with that, bro. Like, I hope that works, but usually you have to choose one or the other. He chose speed. Didn't work out. Ain't working out. He knows that.
Everybody's good with tempo now anyway.
So it needs to be kind of that. There's that 80-20 rule. Bro, you need to be 80% power, sprinkling some 20% speed. That's it. Period. You can't mix the two unless you're in Tuscaloosa with Nick Saban and 48 offensive analysts and the latest previously successful head coach that's now your offensive coordinator.
Think about this, too. Just not only the elite talent that Bama's bringing in and then reloading with, but also the sheer fact that Nebraska ain't alone. As much as it's pained you as a Nebraska fan the last 2 weeks, and then going back to Illinois, Wisconsin, 10 points off of special teams mishaps today. Turnovers an issue. So they're not alone. Clemson's offensive line is getting dismantled because they're all playing freshmen or redshirt freshmen with no ATN running the football.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no...
Or catching out of the backfield.
There's no Amir, to make it all better. Yeah. So Nebraska's not alone in some of those warts. But the point is they have been right there, and you're wanting to see progress. You're wanting to see a different football team in year 4. There's an expectation, and they're doing enough to pull you in Al Pacino style. But it's still, today's so huge because you're going to get a third crack at having to play smart, disciplined football while you, by the way, out-talent this team.
Yeah.
So can you do it? And then also, again, from a mental standpoint, bounce up off the canvas.
Special teams is a whole nother discussion.
Well, we talked to Elijah's brisket take with the O-line, to the build with the defensive front seven and secondary. You have special teams that was not cared about, thought about, because, again, back to the Oregon and Power combo, special teams didn't matter because you're not going to kick the ball. You're putting 50 a game up.
Dude, you're like smoking grilled cheese or something with like it just like special teams are just like, what are you doing? Like what? Stop! Like I'm gonna put my pizza rolls in the smoker. No, stop! Like just get.
If you do fry them, they're pretty good.
No, it's 30 minutes before all your guests arrive, and you realize you haven't even started on the side dishes. You've only been working on that brisket for the past 6 hours, and you still have you promised mac and cheese, you promised baked beans.
I love the food takes.
You promised cornbread.
Today.
You had all these side dishes, these nice complimentary dishes that you now just don't even have time to make, and you go, well, I guess we're going to make the best of it. Like, that's what
and so then you take
is.
your canned chicken, you douse it in barbecue sauce, you mix it up, and you call it pulled chicken. It's like, no, that's canned chicken mixed with barbecue sauce. What are you doing?
To my credit, I did have food ready for kickoff last week, right? We were able to eat a half hour before kickoff and go from there.
But look, special teams, I think at this point this year, what you could probably most hope for, I guess, is just stop the bleeding for now. Okay? Like,
do you need glue? Do you need staples? Do you need stitches? Do you need a Band-Aid?
Stop the bleeding.
But right? I'm asking what type of stoppage.
Dante Hall and Devin Hester ain't on this team, obviously. Huh. Right? There's no Ray Guy. There's no Jesse Cush.
Give me a Reggie Roby side.
There's none of that. That's not happening. Just stop the bleeding. Field a couple punts. Right? Maybe return a kick to the 25 occasionally.
Maybe bring a backup punt returner with you on the road.
Let's kick 35-yarders.
Let's see Nixon today.
Let's punt the ball, like, I don't know, in the general vicinity of where you're supposed to punt it.
Dolman nailed it. Don't kick it today.
I mean,
be good enough on offense to not have to punt.
I mean, you remember DeMorte Pearsonell? That was his Twitter handle. Don't punt.
To 15?
Yeah, man. I think, but I mean, that's a whole nother thing, and that obviously has to get reworked too. So what I think is happening, big picture, I think defense, they've established what they want to be. They've recruited to it. They got some dudes. They look like they'll be all right next year too, right? The super seniors are definitely helping, but they look like they'll be all right. Because I don't think I don't think this is going to be a dominant black shirt vintage defense anytime soon, but I think it's pretty good.
You lose a guy like JoJo.
Yeah.
Looking ahead, that's
Damian
big.
Daniels is probably going to be gone. Both safeties are going to be gone.
Yeah.
Taylor Britt's going to be gone. You're going to lose some guys for sure, but you're also bringing back.
You've had time to build guys behind them.
Straight up. Yep, you're going to lose Stilley. That's not cool. But you got Ty Robinson. You got Casey Rogers. You got the whole linebacking crew just about. You got Quentin Newsome. You got Noah Polar Gates waiting back there. Yeah, you got the Nut Smasher is ready to go too. So you will probably be okay defensively. Offensively, they need to figure their stuff out. And they need to recalibrate. They probably already have, but you can't do it right away. Where it's like, you're obviously not going to be this tempo team. You're not going to be this Oregon speed guy.
It's okay to be able to do some tempo, but
that's not you.
Just go downhill.
It's not
Meat
you.
and potatoes, smash mouth football. Yeah. You've got
special teams. You just got to blow up entirely.
There are the offensive line to do it. I mean, you get a chance to see Teddy today, Noeli at a guard spot, Sichterman, Bando perhaps, and then you're going to move Corker into right tackle, and then there's Benhart who. Him and Banks, if Banks didn't jack his hand, Banks would be a guard option.
Yeah.
But who knows? You can't play offensive line with just one hand. And then Benhart right now is probably too big to move inside.
You want to know how much sense this team makes, though? Zero. And here's a case in point. Okay, so we would all agree that the offensive line can't really pass block, right? Like, they're pretty bad at pass blocking. They allow too much pressure, right?
Yeah, one of the worst in the country.
Yeah, and not very good at run blocking either, right? Like, they're just kind of, can't really get the run game going. So they're not really good at just blocking, period. Like, the core of what you need to be a good offense. But this team ranks 25th nationally in yards per game. So hold on, you're telling me that you have an offensive line that cannot block. They can't pass block, they cannot run block.
Consistently.
You don't have a running back that can go for 100. Nobody's sniffing 100 yards from the running back position. Right? You got a revolving door in receiver. Nobody can stay healthy at the receiver position. You're 25th. Like, what? How does that happen? It makes no sense. The answer is
number 2.
Yeah, the answer is Adrian Martinez scrambling and picking up 60-yard chunks a couple times a game. Like, I know that, but it just makes no damn sense. And then on the flip side, defensively, we're all in on the black shirts. Nobody's criticized. Everybody's like, oh, it might be the best defense since Sue was walking around here in 2009. Everybody's all in on the black. Dude, they're like a very pedestrian 50th in yards allowed.
Well, they're number 9 in their own league.
Yeah, I mean, they're not. It just, the team makes no damn sense.
They are hard.
They are hard to watch sometimes because you're just like, what? Huh?
No, they're hard to drive. They're hard to drive the field on, and they've been very opportunistic from making a play. In third downs and fourth downs, they've been great. They've been really good in situational football, and from a red zone standpoint, they've been pretty good that route as well. I mean, so they'll bend, but they have not broken. I'm just worried about the day where the levee breaks.
It could happen.
Where the offense isn't peeing a drop, and the defense is just on the field all day. Well, and the offense helped them out last week, where you want to look at time of possession. We're talking 18-minute advantage by Nebraska. Hey. And you cross into territory even with Smothers early in the game, and it's, oh no, let me jump wrongly, and here's 5, here's 1st and 15, oops, here's 1st and 20. The last 2 weeks you've had a drive that crossed the 50, then went backwards because it turned 1st and 10 after a nice third down conversion, turned into 1st and 20.
This might explain, now Nebraska's not the only team that has had to deal with this, but a lot of the procedure penalties, the false starts, some of the first times that these guys have played in front of crowds.
Well, that's it. That
is something
that's
worth
the reality.
Yeah, this is something worth just tuck it away. Now, if you get 4 more of those tonight, like, I'm chucking batteries. I'm kidding. Don't do that.
Everybody drank.
Like, and what do you throw now, man? We would throw oranges. What do you throw now? Like, what bowl are we hoping for? Would we throw blue bonnets?
I think the
what do we throw?
There should be some vaccination bowl or something that
probably
props up.
The Pfizer bowl? The Pfizer bowl? The Vaxxer bowl? Just throw hypodermic needle? I don't know. I don't even know what we would throw. But look, man, they're recalibrating offensively. They're trying to figure their stuff out. Martinez, thank God he's here because he is like...
And give him enough NIL to bring him back next year.
I don't think he'll want to.
Well, but where's he going to go?
I don't think he'll want to. CFL.
All right.
That's what I think.
You can make more money doing NIL than you can in the CFL.
That's probably true.
So here's what we know. We know that Saturday you felt this team would never win a game again, and they are cursed. Sunday, you're done watching Nebraska football. Tuesday, the defense is pretty damn good, so you're being brought back around.
Yeah.
Wednesday, you move to, if special teams get cleaned up,
we have a chance.
And by yesterday, after 4 Jack Daniels, this team can win 4 in a row.
Yeah, exactly. I saw that tweet. It's a great tweet.
It is good.
I'm sitting there, like, that's what's so funny about this team, too, is that despite all these warts, team cannot pass block, they cannot run block, they cannot kick an extra point, they can't kick a field goal, they can't field a punt, they can't cover a punt, they can't do any of those things. But most score predictions are in and around 31-17 Skurs. No problem.
I think it's like a 13-10 going into the fourth quarter, and Nebraska gets a couple touchdowns.
Going against the Northwestern nerds that are rolling up in here like, all of them got like 35s on their ACT.
Probably.
They're just out smart. They're playing chess they're playing chess right now. We don't even know it.
Well, they're doing yoga. Smart. They're stretching out. It was funny. We were here yesterday. Every Home Football Friday, 4 to 6. Searles was doing the pregame or the Friday show with us, and Fitzy, gets off the bus and kind of waves at Searles because Searles was in his office a few years back on an unofficial, and they're trying to talk old Searles into another SAT run.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, there you go.
And he's like, no, I'm good. Coming up, the Rewind with Gary Barnett, Mark Kraynak, Chris Schmidt down here at the Single Barrel. Weekend edition, Hail Varsity Radio. Real Red Reaction starts immediately following Nebraska-Northwestern. Bill Hooks, Elijah Herbal, and Will Wilson. They are going to be doing the post-game for you. We are on the road again, and it's powered by your friends at Arrow Brokerage, a full-service real estate brokerage operated by local real estate investors, and they specialize in that real estate investment. And they've got a mighty team of talented realtors that can help you in all faculties of real estate. That's buying, that's selling, that's staging, and that is investing, and much more. Be sure to check in with Jenny Limbach and Marcus Schmidt with Arrow Brokerage. Brokerage at arrowlincoln.com. The email, website, arrowlincoln.com/brokerage. And for the socials, find them on Facebook at ArrowLNK and Instagram at Arrow_Lincoln. We are going to step away. More thoughts as Nebraska-Northwestern get rolling. Great time here at the Single Barrel. 250 whiskeys to choose from. The Top Golf simulators have been turned into monster big screens, so you got a little Ole Miss Bama on. Cincinnati is backhanding Notre Dame. And, of course, you got some Big Ten action going along with K-State and Oklahoma. So some good ball leading up to Nebraska and Northwestern. That is Mark Kraynak. Watch us on StreamYard, ESPN Lincoln, Facebook. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbal is clean-shaven back at our studios, and we'll step away. Coming up, the Rewind with former Northwestern coach, Hall of Famer Gary Barnett, his take on Nebraska-Northwestern. It's Hail Varsity Roadshow, the weekend edition on ESPN Lincoln.
Early to rise with Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Here's Chris Schmidt and Mark Kraynak.
Back into it. It's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. We say hi to the coach at Northwestern and Colorado, Gary Barnett, back with us. Coach, we'll dive into the purple and red for Saturday, homecoming for Nebraska. You had a late one against Arizona State. Coach, were you able to at least, find a way to watch a little bit of Nebraska-Michigan State?
Well, I did. We go on the air like a little over 2 hours before the game, and so right. I was looking into the booth next door to me, watching it while we were doing our pregame, and I'm watching the game, sort of kept my eye on it anyway, and then all of a sudden I looked up and there was a guy in green running real fast with nobody around me. I went, oh no, how did this happen? Because it looked like Nebraska was going to be able to put it away there at the end of the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden there's a guy running free into the end zone, and boom, it all changes. They came back from a deficit. Shoot, a lot of good signs in there, a lot of good things happening, and then all of a sudden you have that happen. And that's what happens when you're struggling, Chris, when you're not hitting on all cylinders. The details that you're putting out there aren't being collected by players.
Take me into that, Coach, with just your job as a teacher and as a coach, and it's a process, and you got to know your kids and your team and your coaches with just how finite it's got to be, whether you're telling a guy kick it to the right and you make sure he understands it, or the fact they miss kick in some big moment. The punt return was brutal, but you also had punts of 7 and 25 yard. It's just a mess, and Coach Frost touched on the fact that a new fire pops up. And what is a reason or a why when you have repeat issues?
Chris, I think some of it has to do with just your culture. In fact, I think that's a great part of it. Once the culture gets established that this is what we do, this is how we do it, and everybody in that locker room holds everybody else responsible for details. And part of your culture has to be details, paying attention to details, holding other people responsible for details, explaining to young guys as they're coming along, the veterans in the locker room, that everything has to be detailed, that the game is won or lost because you don't pay attention to details. And once that's established, and you know what, it takes some time until you've got, if you've had a lot of turnover in players, and this portal is going to affect all that. You're going to see less detailing going on, being able to be accomplished because of all the things that are happening with the portal. And guys going in and out. It's got to be a culture of it. When the older guys in that locker room and in each one of the position meetings explains and shows and holds the younger guys to it, then it becomes your responsibility when you're not a younger guy anymore to hold the next group to it. And it can't just be the coaches. I mean, you can, but you're not going to be successful for long. I mean, you're not going to be a consistent winning program year in, year out, doing the right things, because there are programs like that. You look at Alabama's process, as he calls it, it's the same thing. It's a culture of doing everything detailed and people holding each other accountable to it. So until that happens, you know, and Nebraska's had a lot of turnover. Look how many receivers you've lost in the last 3 years. Look how many players you've had go in and out of there. And I don't know about coaches, how much turnover there's been there. When there's a lot of changeover in players, that's where it happens. You never have a chance to get and understand and enforce your culture.
Gary Barnett's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. You know, offensive line's also been an issue. We're talking 18 sacks in 5 games, 12 sacks the last 2 games. And you don't have to blitz. You can get home with 3, get home with 4. 28 pressures by just the 2 defensive ends by Michigan State Saturday night. Adrian's been incredible, but he's also been running for his life. And no doubt the O-line's feeling it. Did you spend extra time? Was that a weekly thing, or was that a as-needed thing with your position coaches if there was a unit struggling?
If you have an entire unit struggling, then it's a hard day of work. I can tell you that. Things like what you're talking about, giving up that many sacks, you know, sometimes you run a scheme offensively where you don't worry about that sort of stuff. Some people don't worry about that because they think their scheme will take care of all that stuff. Well, you look down in your scouting report, and you've got a guy that's got 5 sacks and 6 tackles for a loss. Let me tell you, you better block him first, and you better find a way to block him first. And if you have to get help, you get help, because that guy's going to disrupt your entire offense if you don't. And now that was my philosophy. That is not everybody's philosophy. And you know what? You know, philosophies are philosophies. Everybody's got one. But, you know, what I would do and our offensive coaches, and this was at my insistence, was you look at that scouting report and you've got anybody on that scouting report that has really outstanding numbers, then that guy's disruptive, and you better solve that problem first before you go to the others. But that's just my approach. And you know, that's a lot. 18 sacks in 5 games, that's a lot of sacks. And I don't care where you are, especially when you're running as much option as you're running. That's a lot of sacks, man. So there's some sort of an issue there that, you know, you really have to solve before you can become a consistent football team.
A few minutes here, Gary Barnett with us. Coach, I look at the recruiting rankings, right, with some of the kids brought in, and they're talented kids. They're big. I mean, they are Big Ten big, 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", and you want behemoth tackles, but you also got to be able to be flexible and bend and then move your feet to protect that edge. And they're kind of in a gray area, to be honest. They're young, because they are, but they're also into, you know, a second season now of starting, and jobs are open this week. And I don't know that you've got any more experienced or better players behind them, because these guys won the job for a reason. What's the latest you went into the year still tinkering with your offensive line?
Well, it depended on the year, Chris. It just depended on, you know, I'm watching Colorado every week, and we're pretty experienced. We got like 10 guys, but we can't find a 5-man rhythm. You know, we're doing the same thing. You know, and offensive line is by far the hardest position to play and hardest position to coach. So, you know, it's
just what it is.
Coach,
right?
You can't overlook that position, man, and you can't overlook how important that coaching of that position is as you go through. So, yeah, it's tough. There's no question about it.
Coach, thought on Saturday, Northwestern, Nebraska. This thing will be about a 3-pointer again, won't it?
You know, I don't know. I look at Northwestern's numbers, and the only thing that would make it a 3-pointer was because There is a decent rivalry established now. I mean, I think Northwestern likes playing Nebraska, and they, even though they may not be as talented, I think, and I don't think they are as talented as Nebraska, and their numbers sort of show that. For some reason, the mental piece of this jumps up, and Northwestern plays them tougher than probably it looks like they should. But on paper, they're both scoring about the same number of points. But and really, you look at points allowed, it's not too far apart. I think Northwestern's 20 a game, Nebraska's 17, but the competition they played it's a little bit different. And Northwestern struggled against Michigan State. They struggled against anybody really that's a Power 5 opponent. They've beaten 2 MAC opponents, and they really haven't run them off the table. So their stats are a little pumped up. But, they allow 396 yards a game. That's a lot. And that's without only playing 2 MAC schools. So, I think it's going to be a struggle for Northwestern. I think that they're a year away. They're playing a lot of new guys in the secondary, giving up a lot of passing yardage, and they lost 2 first rounders off of that team. And at Northwestern, you can't lose two first rounders and rebound from that. You don't have another one take his place. So I don't think this game should be a problem for Nebraska if they just, even if they play as well as they did against Michigan State, they should win this game. But, if you don't, you never know. And like I said, the mental piece of it here where Northwestern feels like they have an edge, whether they do or not, that comes into play. So you might get a good game, another 3-pointer, absolutely.
Well, and that's where I'm wondering, where's Nebraska's psyche at after Oklahoma, then Sparty, and do you get off the mat with a couple of gut punches? Because the team that's going to make you be perfect more times than not, because Coach Fitz does such a great job, is Northwestern. I mean, Northwestern and Iowa really make you do details, and Nebraska's not done details at all really well this season. So I don't know. Are you concerned about the quarterback spot? I mean, I know that's been a kind of a merry-go-round there for Northwestern.
Well, yeah, Hunter Johnson's he's got 4 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions. You don't like that ratio.
Yeah.
And that's been a struggle, and he struggled when he transferred in there 2 years ago. So, yeah, I think the big difference for Northwestern a year ago was Peyton Ramsey, the transfer from Indiana. He turned that football team. That was the best-looking football team at Northwestern I've seen in a while. And it takes a guy like that to do it, and they just don't seem to have a trigger man that can do that again this year.
Coach, we'll do some rapid fire. I know SC comes to town for you guys, and they're wobbling a bit. How are the Buffs feeling after another tough week? Well,
the Buffs are ranked 127th and 128th in every offensive category. Now, there's only 130, Chris, and I'm going to look up and see who could possibly be worse than us. But our whole problem comes down to quarterback play. We just have had really young, inexperienced quarterback play. We can't get the ball thrown. We've only thrown 1 pick, but we won't throw the football. Yeah. And so, we call the plays, but he won't throw them. So it's really frustrating. Our leading pass receiver, for example, has 7 catches in 4 games. So, it's a struggle for us with those numbers. So we're going to struggle. We're going to struggle all year until that position gets fixed. And frankly, I don't see a fix because he's only got 2 scholarship quarterbacks. One's a redshirt freshman, the other's a true freshman. And they can't afford to lose either one of them, but so they can't run them much. So Carl's in a real bind here at the quarterback spot.
Upset alert for Iowa. They are at Maryland, and both teams are unbeaten.
I guess I haven't watched enough of Maryland to be that respectful of them, but I sure like Iowa. I sure like Iowa. I like the way they play football. I'm not going to take the upset, but I'll be interested in watching. I mean, I like Tua. I really do.
Mm-hmm. Little Tua.
First name.
Yeah.
Little Tua. But I like him. I think he's a good player. He really turns that program around, I think. But, gosh, Iowa's such a complete team.
Well, Arkansas whacked A&M, and now they head to Georgia. That's a back-to-back. What do you think? I like what Arkansas's coach is doing. He's got some belief down there.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody likes Sam Pittman. Well, it's an 18.5-point spread. I can't believe that when I see it. I think Georgia's going to win the game, but I don't see it by anywhere close to 18.5. I don't think Georgia can put that many points on the board.
Is it do or die for Wisconsin? Michigan rolls into town.
No question. Wisconsin have been way overrated. Mertz has not played well since he's making all the money, although I don't think that's the reason. But he has not played well this year, and Michigan is playing very well. To see that Wisconsin was a 1-point favorite, those guys must know a lot more than I know, because I could never see that spread.
Okay, Notre Dame, Cincinnati. Man, Coach Fickell does a great job. The Irish are charmed, is the word I use. What do you think?
I think that leprechaun gets left at home this week. I think Cincinnati gets them. I think a leprechaun doesn't come out of the locker room. And they're, Cincinnati's favored in this game. So there's a lot of people. I think there's more hope in that spread than there is reality, because Notre Dame's still playing pretty well, and they know how to win. So I think we're all rooting for Cincinnati more than betting on them. So.
Ole Miss and Alabama. Is it woodshed time for Lane? Does Coach Saban give Lane a spanking here, or do you think this is a shootout?
No, I don't think so. I think 14.5 points is too many. I think this is going to be another shootout. Last year was 60 to whatever it was. I think it's been the same kind of game. Ole Miss has got a chance, and I think this is another game where now if it were somebody else coaching that Ole Miss team, everybody'd be rooting for him. But Kiffin, he'll half the people will be rooting for him, and half of them won't. He's polarizing. So I think everybody just wants Alabama to lose, but I don't think Alabama will cover in this game, but I do think it's going to be a fun game to watch.
Coach, have a great call against SC, and thanks for a few minutes today.
All right, Chris, great being with you. Thank you.
The Hail Varsity Radio Saturday Morning Show, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Strap yourselves in. Here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt.
Y'all don't even know he was a virgin until he's 28, and now roll tide.
And Mark Kraynak.
Time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me.
Welcome to it. It's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Mark Kraynak, Weekend Edition. Elijah Herbel back at our ESPN Lincoln studios. We have been handing out beads. People have been accepting beads. We have sunglasses. We have a lot of goodies from Budweiser.
No one's even showed you anything to get those
Well,
beads.
Kraynak, people have you. I don't want to tell folks what you did for your beads, but
hey, listen.
Long and short is you have two bead necklaces on. Alabama is absolutely throttling Ole Miss. Word from Colorado is drugs must be great in Lincoln. Elijah Herbel, because you picked against St. Nick, you picked against the Bama machine, and again, I'll say this: Bama did jump out 21-3 last weekend. So we'll see if Ole Miss keeps chopping wood, but it's quite ugly. Notre Dame getting slammed as well.
I can assure you I was not on crack yesterday when I made that pick. I can assure you of that, but it's not going well for the Rebs right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, and it's probably not going to. Can I tell you guys a quick little aside about the baseball game I, quote, coached, unquote, today?
Okay.
9-10 under.
Sure.
Right? Both teams tossed a no-hitter.
Really?
Both teams tossed a no-hitter. The final score was 12-12. What that means is...
all walks.
Literally, not a single ball was hit into play. Once. And it was 12-4. It went 2 innings.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all I had to say.
That's a 2-flask game.
That's all I had to say.
That's a 2-flask game. We'll see how many flasks are needed tonight. Does Nebraska win comfortably? Does Nebraska win in a tight ball game against Northwestern? Put your big red shades on.
Oh, sorry.
Kraynak.
I'll put them on.
Do we have Brandon Vogel in the house? Yes, no, maybe. Oh, Brandon Vogel is with us, the managing editor from HailVarsity.com and magazine. I'm Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter, and you can stream us on ESPN Lincoln Facebook. Gary Sharp is in the on-deck circle, and my nephew Dixon has been throwing out beads wildly. His arm is above reproach. Vogues, how are you doing, man? What do you think so far of the day of Big Ten football, Michigan, Wisconsin, and, of course, Minnesota, Purdue, and Ohio State handling their business against the Fighting Federals?
Yeah, and the biggest result of the day, Illinois beating Charlotte.
Well, good. They came back.
Minnesota, I ended up watching a good bit of that game because it was pouring rain and it was ugly. The scores were ugly a lot of other places. So credit to Minnesota for bouncing back. Like, that wasn't easy for them. They were having to really scheme everything for that one. Michigan, pretty impressive. Just kind of slowly controlled that game and opened up a big lead. So what Michigan has done so far has been pretty unassailable, at least in my view.
And they're doing this in year 7 of Harbaugh. A lot of folks had started to write him off in Ann Arbor and thought maybe he was going to go.
Took a pay cut.
Yep, took a pay cut. And so we were talking, Brandon, in the opening of the show, look, not to make excuses or defend or to say that it will work, but when Frost was hired, he was given 7 years, $35 million. Nobody batted an eye about that. Everybody said 7 years, with seemingly recognizing and understanding the magnitude of the rebuild that he was undertaking. With that said, do you and also embedded within there, Brandon, is the fact that, look, you're affording him some rope to make some mistakes. Do you think that we are now looking at a program that is recalibrating, especially offensively, about what they wanted to do coming in, the recognition that ain't going to work, and now they're going to a plan B?
Ask me again in about 7 hours. But no, I see what you're saying, and it's kind of it's interesting because so the options here are you can go the Harbaugh route, which almost nobody does. And, it's kind of like, well, let's see what that is, the argument for it. Or you stay in the same cycle, which is most of college football and has been Nebraska for really, minus the Bo Pelini era, the entire 21st century of, well, you got about 4 years, and if it's not apparent that things are going great at that point, then it's time to start looking around. Which, that really puts you in. Coaching hires are such a crapshoot. There's like 2, 3, 4 hires, probably over 3 or 4 coaching change cycles that are just like slam dunks. And maybe that number is even high. Everything else is really, I don't want to call it luck of the draw, but there's just a lot of variance in that. So a question Nebraska might have to face at some point this season is, do you sign up for more of that, or do you take kind of the contrarian approach and say, nope, we're going to be patient here and hope that offers a bigger return?
Brandon Vogel's with us. Vogues, let's look at what's worked when it comes to those coaching hires. Obviously Saban, right, because he's a control freak, and the NFL is obviously not for him. He recruited well. He won in college. He did well at Michigan State, but with more resources, he killed it at LSU and now at Bama. Dabo was kind of the butt of a joke until they broke through. Taj Boyd, of course, Deshaun Watson, and then Sunshine That's a great 3-year run at quarterback that elevated them. Texas, when they were good, they had Vince, they had Colt. So it really depends on how you hit at quarterback. And then there's Urban. But those are your 3 or 4, right? SC coaching carousel, Tennessee coaching carousel. Florida finally got it right.
Miami, Florida State.
Yeah, Florida got it right with Mullen, but that was not new ground. They were just lucky to get him, quite honestly, because of his history. Oklahoma, of course, handed off. They've been good. So it's really about patience. And by that, if you're really ahead of the curve, it's year 2, year 3, wow, you pop. But in most instances, it's going to be a Dabo-type deal. And even with Frost in Nebraska, as you look at year 4, you've seen some work. And to Kraynak's point about this reset here, it's something where Nebraska has seen it on the defensive side, but you can't rush progress offensively. And that's really going to be a key for me today is, what type of competency do you get out of your offensive line? Because that's what you can't microwave that and expect it to be good. Nebraska's played a lot of young kids, and they just need more time smoking, as we were talking hour 1.
Yeah, I think they might, particularly on the offensive line. I mean, I know the record doesn't show it, and it needs to show it sooner rather than later. But I do think this is probably the best Nebraska team so far of the Frost era, and that's with being well aware of the current limitations that this team has. Offensive line and the lack of a run game being perhaps the biggest one, and then special teams being the bizarre and annoying one. Even with that, you kind of look at the rest of this schedule, and the danger with a team like Nebraska that's been so volatile is that this could all sound entirely stupid if Northwestern comes in and wins tonight. But they're making that progress, and it's frustrating how that keeps getting hidden, because while they keep making kind of the same type of mistakes, and they keep faltering in these close games, it takes a lot. And I mean, that stuff kind of accumulates. It takes a lot to look past that. And so that's kind of the battle I think Nebraska is fighting at the moment. The only way, it doesn't overwhelm whatever progress is being made is to have some of these results start flipping Nebraska's way. And I think they've got a real opportunity here with back-to-back home games. And then a short trip to Minnesota. That's not going to be easy, your 8th game in 8 weeks. But they've got a chance to kind of turn the tide around, I think, on this 2021 season.
Brandon, it's one of those things, too, and you being a guy that likes to dive into the numbers, there's such a thing as a statistical anomaly. And it just feels like Nebraska as a whole is such an anomaly. Brandon, they can't pass block, they can't run block. They're 25th in total offense. The black shirts are, most people feel is maybe their best outfit so far since 2009, 2010. They're 50th. As somebody that appreciates numbers, dives into numbers, and think they can be telling, is this the most difficult team that you've ever encountered? To try to apply any sort of statistical anything to these guys?
Yeah, they're challenging on a couple of fronts. On a points per play basis, this offense right now is the second best of the Frost era, at the end of September. So that's what I looked at there. And it doesn't feel that way. They're not putting up a ton of points, but, it is what it is. And even the defense, in what they have done is, without criticism at this point, they are keeping points off the board, and bottom line, that's all that matters. But there's a lot of numbers on the defensive side where you're well, that's more yards than I would have thought a defense like this is giving up, and that's a better kind of down-to-down success rate than I thought this defense would be giving up. So it's interesting. You have the offense over here, which is kind of maybe greater than the sum of its parts so far, even working through or working around a huge limitation with how the offensive line played so far. The defense, meanwhile, is like a straight bottom line business. They're like, we'll give up some yards on first down, we'll give up some yards on second down, but we're going to keep you off the scoreboard. And at the end of the day, it's only the latter part that matters.
Well, I'm just going to jump in here real quick.
Yeah, Brendan Vogel's with us here on Hail Varsity Radio, the Saturday afternoon edition. That sounds weird to say. You can also check us out on the ESPN Lincoln Facebook page for the live stream. And Brendan, I just want to get your take as we move forward in this season. What do you think the biggest issue is that Nebraska needs to get fixed if they want to make a run at 6-6 to make it into a bowl game? Is it that offensive line? Is it just pass blocking, special teams? There's a litany of issues that they could get fixed, but which do you think is most important to get fixed?
Yeah, I think it's got to be the run game, so which would encapsulate the offensive line, but also the running backs. And Ryan Held talked about it this week, and Frost has said it after games as well. They've got to be a little bit better too. So for Nebraska to get there, and it's going to be, they've got a shot to get to six wins. I really do think that, but you're going to be in a ton of games that are close, and that has been Nebraska's kryptonite of late. You've got to be able to run the ball, and I'm not talking about you come out and the run game looks night and day different. It's kind of being able to run the ball when it matters, getting down there in the red zone and having confidence in 4 or 5, 6 series of runs that you can actually run and maybe boost that red zone scoring a little bit. Their best chance to kind of get those 4 more wins and get into the postseason, I think, almost requires a better rushing output than we've seen so far. That said, the Big Ten is traditionally a really tough conference to run in, so it's an uphill climb for sure.
Vogues, what do you anticipate from the O-line? You got Big Teddy at left tackle today, the German at left guard. And do you think Turner moves to right guard with Sichterman, but there could be a dose of Bando, maybe. I don't think Banks is healthy enough. Maybe he is, but he's got a dinged hand. So what do you anticipate from the O-line? Is it going to be better or just more of the same growing pains despite Northwestern allegedly not having an elite defense?
Yeah, Northwestern's defense is down from kind of its own impossibly high standard, but it doesn't come into this, given the use they have on that side, in sort of a decrepit state by any means. They'll still be able to challenge you, and with this coaching staff, they'll know, ways to try and trick Nebraska's eyes and try to make things confusing and difficult up front, because that's kind of been the book on Nebraska and attacking that offensive line so far. I don't know if they'll be better, but I would expect to see a little bit more fire up front. Like, if you're going to make these changes, that's the one thing you should be able to bank on getting. Like, okay, Teddy, okay, Nori, here's your chance to go out and really take hold of this and make it really hard to take you off the field. And to do that, you just got to come out and really play without fear. So I would hope you could see a little bit of that, and I do think that would make things look better if you maintain that level for 4 quarters.
Brandon Vogel with us on Hail Varsity Radio. I'm oversimplifying here, but when Frost first got here, he essentially said, hey, it's going to be Oregon speed and Husker power. So basically just saying, we're going to choose super fast and super big. Like, okay, that's Alabama, and no one else can do that. You kind of have to choose one. It seems like he started to sort of lean towards speed with a lot of the recruits that were brought in, but most of them transferred out. Do you feel like, again, simplifying, he's kind of come to the realization, and Nebraska is marching towards a power, big type offense, of course, with some speed sprinkled in?
I think they're still trying to blend those two things, and I think that will kind of remain the ideal. It's interesting. I wonder how much of this is due to Nebraska, how well the defense has played so far this year. Like, it was reasonable to expect them to be pretty good, but they've even exceeded my expectations through 5 games. And also that Illinois loss, I talked after that game of Nebraska's offense. Like, it's never had a problem putting up yards. It's minus this year has really been a consistently on schedule team, which is a pretty big advantage. But they rarely felt like the offense was in control of the game. We were talking about Michigan, Wisconsin earlier. It always felt like Michigan had the upper hand on that. And it's hard to do without a time of possession edge, which if you're not going to have that, you've basically got to be kind of Chip Kelly era Oregon or Frost era UCF. Like, you have to produce at such a high level offensively if you're going to average 26 or 28 minutes of possession. So I'm interested if that's a switch, because that's been the case so far. Nebraska is on average over 30 minutes now, just by a touch, but it's a lot. It's basically 3 minutes higher than they'd been prior. Is that something that sticks around? And that's something I think could be just kind of realizing, we want to go fast, we want the big plays, we want to do the same stuff we've always wanted to do, but it's okay to slow down a little bit because that has extra value in the Big Ten.
Vogues, give me a prediction here, bud, before we say goodbye.
Yeah, it's always an adventure with Nebraska. I mean, I think they have a pretty decided advantage in this based on what I've seen from both teams. And just being back home after 2 weeks away, it's pretty rare. You got a night game, should have a pretty raucous home crowd. So I'll take Nebraska, probably 34-24 range, somewhere in there.
Frost is unbeaten. Once he hits 35 points, he is 3-17 when trailing at halftime, and Northwestern likes to, as KGB would say, hanging around. We'll see if that's a real thing or not. Vogues, are you in the red tracksuit today for good luck?
I'm not, but it's we got a couple hours, so I can make that change if I need to.
I need a tweeted picture. That's pretty good. Vogues, we appreciate you much. Thanks for making time this afternoon, and we'll see you and talk to you next week. Okay, man?
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. All right, Kraynak, I love the Elton John red glasses, and you're just kind of marveling at the slot setup here by Alabama as they are just slicing and dicing.
They totally
up 4 touchdowns.
But can I tell you, underappreciated uniforms, Ole Miss.
Oh, they're cool. Powder blue, the red and the white.
Yeah, Ole Miss has got a nice look about them.
Awesome.
They're not a very good. I mean, they're okay.
No, they're good. They're 9-3.
They'll fall apart under Lane, of course.
No, dude. I think he's.
You think he's matured?
I think he's got a sponsor that will kick his butt.
You think he's matured?
I think he's got a sponsor.
Okay.
Legit. I think he's got somebody that's got an eye on him, and after the trials and tribulations, I think Lane's actually grown up.
Okay.
More. He still probably has a good time, but.
So do you think it's him or Urban Meyer that replaces Frost in a couple years?
Neither. Neither.
Oh, so you think it's going to be Cleanan? What's the K-State guy?
Chris Clean.
No, I like Leipold.
Oh, you think it would be Leipold?
I don't think we're having this conversation in 2 years. I think things get figured out.
Okay. All right, we'll go with
have some more old fashioned.
I'm gonna do
the Iron Horse is on deck. The on deck circle is there. Wave. Gary Sharp, stately.
Yeah.
As we are here at the Graduate Hotel, the Single Barrel. A lot of Nebraska fans hanging out, enjoying themselves. And the Real Red Reaction follows. Hail Varsity Weekend continues, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Now it's time to get back to the Hail Varsity Radio Show with Chris Schmidt and Mark Kraynak.
All right, that's it! You two guys leave me no choice. No television for a week. What?
Oh, man.
Happy.
Well, dude, I messed this up. I did the old hashtag Iron Horse. But it's Iron Hose.
Hey. The Iron Hose?
Hey, that'll work.
The Iron Hose.
Oh, my God. We are here at the Single Barrel Hail Varsity Weekend, presented by the
Roll
Nebraska
damn Tide. Hello.
They are. It's 35 rip over Ole Miss. Gary Sharp with us. You hear him.
That's really throwing you off.
Oh, but I mean, it's funny. It's great, but it's a misstep. But you're welcome.
The iron hose would be hard to put on. Iron hose would be hard to put on. They just would.
You sure?
Northwestern, Nebraska.
Chris, you sure that this show is brought to you by the Nebraska Lottery and not by Viagra?
That's a bad hashtag. Almost as bad as picking Alabama to be beaten on the road by Ole Miss.
Is that what you did?
Not me.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because if you did, you need to take the next 30 minutes off.
I will do that. I will remove myself from this live stream here.
Hey, look at Elijah there. He's all decked out in his GBR gear.
Clausburn accused him of taking mushrooms and then needing a mentor.
Wow.
So
this show has jumped the shark.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit.
How you doing, Mark?
It's kind of how the season is, though, right?
Well, can you salvage the season with a win tonight and knowing what's coming to town next weekend?
I'm excited for next weekend, but eat what's on your plate tonight.
You can't look ahead.
You can't look ahead.
Yeah, no looking ahead.
Have you not followed Nebraska football for a while?
Yeah.
No, I know tonight's going to be a white knuckler again.
You can't even look past a punt.
But it shouldn't. Okay? Yeah. I know that 8 of the 10 games in the Big Ten have been one-score games. There are the 2 games that are more than one score, won by Nebraska. I have said this all week long about Northwestern. Northwestern has got a really good football program. Pat Fitzgerald is a really good coach that they get off to slow starts, and then they find a way to turn it around.
Yeah.
But they lost a lot of talent from last year's team. They lost NFL guys off of last year's roster.
And they don't get a lot of those.
And they're in a transition phase where it's all about when you play somebody. And I think this is a Northwestern team that isn't the 8 or 9 win team. It's that 8-9 win team last year. They have a year off where they win 4, 5, maybe 6, and then they bounce back. It feels like the middle year this year where Nebraska is getting them at the right time. They don't run the ball real well against Power 5. They are still unsettled at quarterback. They have a brand new defense, which is much different than last year. If Nebraska, even with the warts that Nebraska has, plays on the same level they played the last 2 weeks, I think this is a 31-17 type game. And if it's not, I'm a little bit concerned.
That's what it should be. I think the issue is, and I don't know how you fix it, or maybe it won't be an issue today, but like the easy downs, usually when it's like, 3 and out, okay, they're going to have to punt, I can go to the fridge, grab a beer, whatever. No. Those easy things, punts should go 40 yards. Maybe a guy gets a 5-yard return. Kickoffs, they should go through the end zone. Chip shot field goals, those should just happen. Extra points, those should just happen. Field a punt, that should just happen. Those easy things don't happen. And so to try to come up with a score prediction for a team that rolls like that is it's impossible. So it's absolutely impossible.
I think in special teams, and it's all about details. And in Nebraska, if they have just some fixing of some mistakes, they could salvage this season or at least keep this season on the right track. I think when punters and place kickers show up, you're not going to change them very much.
No.
They're kind of what they are, with a little tweak here or there. It's all about coverage unit and the IQ of playing special teams.
Yep.
Can Nebraska fix that? I don't know, because that's ingrained. This is a disorganized football program that in that area is very undisciplined. But I think what you'll see tonight is the gradual turning of the corner of more consistent offensive line play, because I think you're going to see a lot of guys play, and I think you're going to see some interesting combinations, especially at the beginning. I think Teddy Prohaska starts at left tackle. I think Turner Corcoran slides over to right tackle. I wouldn't be surprised to see Ben Hart play a little bit of guard. I think Nebraska, because here's what Scott had to do after last Saturday, guys, and I said on my show he should have taken over special teams because he needs to send a message to this football team. He needs to get their attention, and I said, you know what? Take over special teams on your own, and that will send a message. That's not happening, but I think they're going to send a message by what they're going to do on the offensive line. Will that make a difference? I don't know. You got a magician at quarterback that has bailed you out, but you can't have your whole offense be Adrian Martinez.
But okay, so this is very surprising on offense, because now it's reached the offensive line. We have not figured out or have any idea what are you doing with the running back rotation? Who's your starting running back?
It's been an issue for 3 years.
That's been a personnel problem at running back. Mm-hmm. Wide receiver's been kind of similar. I think you kind of know who your guys are, but for some reason they disappear and they don't play and they don't get any snaps. Now it's reached the offensive line where it's like the guys that were sort of all coming back, the guys that kind of cemented themselves in the fall, all of a sudden just aren't good enough, and now you're just throwing in a true freshman. I don't know, man. Do we think this is actually right? Do we think this is actually going to solve something?
Well, it has to be better than the alternative, because right now your 2 tackles are some of the worst in terms of pass pro and just playing the game of football. And you got to do something. You cannot stay status quo and just start leaning on, as they spend more time together, it's just going to work out as the year goes along. You're in crunch time now. I mean, after tonight, you're halfway through the season, and you are 3-3, 1-2 if you win. If not, then it's
over.
I mean, it's very, very, very uncomfortable
you
around
think that,
here.
Chris?
I think their season's over. Absolutely, because you're eliminated from
because
the
now
West.
you start to look at what's here next week, and then you got to go on the road. You know, I mean, everybody does the math. So this is one of those. Is it called must win or can't lose game tonight?
Can't lose.
But this is a game that if you are telling me that you are making progress, you win this football game, and you show some progress in areas that you've struggled. But I think it's not all on the offensive line. You're right, Mark. But I think because of their inability to do simple things up front, it throws the entire thing off, and they are super uncomfortable in what they want to do, because you don't game plan for the offensive line is going to give you breakdowns, or the offensive line is going to start slow, and then at some point they're going to play well during the game. If you go back to last week, there were times where that offensive line you started to go, okay, I can see this. But it wasn't series after series, and I think you got to shake it up and see what the alternative is, and if that works, then you ride with it. But that's a big step for Teddy Prochazka to play. But I also think if you're going to do that, you do it against a team like Northwestern that doesn't have the Dean Lowrys that they've had in the past when they've come in here on the defensive line. They don't have those kind of guys. So it's not like going up against Aiden Hutchinson next week at Michigan. Your first 60 snaps of playing at tackle, if that's the case tonight, is against Northwestern.
Did Nebraska make – I'm going to go back 2 weeks. Did they make a mistake not helping their tackles with – and I know OU has 2 Sunday guys that are going to be in the top 20. That said, one's a linebacker, one's edge rusher. Did Nebraska make a mistake not giving either of their tackles wherever he lined up help? So it's one thing to get beat. It's one thing to be inconsistent. It's another thing for a Benhart to lose confidence. It's another thing for Corcoran to try and work through. This is his camp since he didn't have camp. Did they help their guys on the line out?
Well, I thought in the Oklahoma game they did. When Vogel came back, they used a lot of 2 tights. Last week they tried. But pure and simple, this is on your tackles. What happened to their athleticism? I mean, they can get outside and stop that guy on the outside. Where's that athleticism? And, I mean, Benhart is not an all Big Ten tackle right now. Corcoran has shown you. I think we probably put too much stock into the Rutgers game. But still,
so good,
though, he's one of your highest recruits ever. So I'm wondering, and I would feel more comfortable if it's that injury in camp is still bothering him, then, hey, this is the guy. This is the finished product. So you got to find some athleticism at your tackles, and maybe by flipping Corcoran, he's more comfortable on that side. But you have to do something. And then I think we're going to see Noelle play at guard. I mean, I think that'll be another – I mean, he's somebody that's already started in Division I football. So you have to do something, because unless they get that fix where they don't have breakdowns, with 4 guys doing one thing, one guy not – their offense can't move forward. And I think when something doesn't go as planned, I think on the offensive side of the ball, it's like, whoa, what do we do?
Gary Sharps with us, Hail Varsity Radio Weekend Edition. We're here at the Single Barrel Weekend Edition show. We're doing a little bit of a flex schedule here, 3 to 5 ahead of Nebraska-Northwestern. Good crowd here, folks milling around here in the Haymarket. Sharpie, You're right about the O-line, and when it doesn't go to plan, it disrupts running game. It makes Adrian much more appreciated because of all the bailing out he's done. The wide receivers have been good, but you wonder who's hurt. It's kind of been week by week.
Yeah, big to watch Betts tonight to see if he's suited up.
Is he?
Well, he has a rib injury.
Yeah.
And you saw the impact it had in the second half, because I think he's kind of merging into the number 1 guy.
Big play guy.
Torrey has kind of been game planned against the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
He hasn't been completely taken away, but Betts is a whole different animal out there on the field. I think it's going to be really hard for him to play tonight.
Oliver Martin should be back tonight. and he had a really good offseason.
So kind of, I think where you're going, Schmitty, and Mark, I'll turn the question back to you. So if you're looking at what Adrian does well, and when you tell Adrian's story, you tell the positive, but you also have to tell the negative.
Yep.
I think he was much better against Oklahoma than he was against Michigan State.
Fair.
Yeah. But he is your whole offense, and you can't have that. But I like what they did a couple of times, and maybe this is something that continues tonight. I like when they roll him out and they move the pocket for him.
Yes.
If you go back, I think one of the sneaky great calls last week was on 4th and 2, and they rolled him out. And he was basically on an island by himself, but he had enough space and time that he could survey the field, but he didn't have to run 10 yards down the field to get a first down. He had to just go to 2, and so he made the decision that nobody's open, I'm not going to force it, and he powered his way for the first down. I wonder if we'll start to see more of that until they're more comfortable with their offensive line.
You nailed it, and I remember the play. It was 4th and short, and you had 3 guys and 2 players. It was Adrian, it was Omar Manning, and 2 dudes went with Omar. Adrian shook the linebacker, got 4. Yes, give me that run instead of the RPO that is kind of the lateral pass. Give me the RPO where I've got a tight end or a wide out in the slot, in the flat, where it's a run pass option he can keep or dump off for 5 that turns into 12 with a tight end, with an Omar. Do something like that, and you see it briefly, but you saw it, and I wish they would have gone to it in overtime.
Well, I don't know. Mark, you and I have had this conversation. The offensive play calling is very sporadic.
Yes.
It's been better the last 2 weeks, though.
You can see designs where, like, for example, there was a swing pass to Morrison
They went
last
well,
week
12 yards.
that could have gone for more. But then but then they're good between the 20s, and then they get into the red zone, and it gets real sporadic. I go back to, you threw a screen to Omar Manning, and it was Manning against 3 guys. Then you came back, and you're telling me Brody Belt is part of your goal line package? Now, he bounced back in the second half, and they hit him for 30, but he ends up out of midfield. But in that scenario, he's in your goal line package. It's a very sporadic play calling right now. And the thing I'm worried about is Nebraska scripts their plays. Well, aren't those supposed to be your best plays that you rep the most at the beginning of the game? Nebraska's got a field goal against an FBS team.
Well, 10 points, 5 quarters. It's brutal.
And that's a field goal, a record-setting field goal for Culp against Oklahoma. Thank God the defense only gave up 9 points, but you've only scored 1 touchdown in the first quarter this year off your scripted plays.
Here's the other question I have, and I'm not saying they should do this because maybe there's a reason, but it's a real question. Look, you want to get tall receivers and tight ends so you can throw the ball up to them and let them make a play.
Vertical.
Right? No,
yep.
Fade routes in the end zone, jump balls. You literally never see that. Like, Austin Allen is the tallest football player in the United States.
Do you think that comes back to the T word?
Trust.
Yep.
Could be.
If it's not there, we're not going to throw it away. Instead, we're going to force it. I think they want.
But that's why you want big guys.
They do. And I think with the 2 tight ends, I think jump balls, 50-50 balls, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think there's the trust of, oh, boy, we're going to turn it over. I think they want so desperately in the red zone just to be able to line up the football and run it.
You want to talk trust, they have 0 inside the 20 to be able to run it, line up.
And that's what ideally they would love to do.
Huh.
But we all say, man, you got 6'4", you got 6'5", you got a 6'9" tight end. Yeah. Just run a fade, something. But, even though I'm not a big fan of fades in the end zone.
But the types of runs you want to do inside the 20s or inside the 20, I would think would be a little bit different. Like, this might sound weird, but like going under center, letting your running back get ahead of steam, as opposed to shotgun handoff. You got tackles that can't block. Right? Like, that's not going to work well for you generally. You know, it just feels like overall, we talked about this at the beginning of the show, Gary, and just wondering what your take is here. I think if we back up, I think it is a staff that realizes, like, they're in an offensive transition right now. They wanted to be one thing coming in.
Yep.
They are not that thing. They cannot be that thing.
Don't they look like a Big Ten team right now? I'm not saying that's bad,
right?
But they look like a Big Ten team,
right?
The way they operate offensively.
Yeah, but I think honestly, I think this is sort of a transitional year. We don't want it to be, But offensively, your plan that you had coming in ain't working. And it isn't gonna.
You got to recognize that and make adjustments. They have body type-wise, thankfully, but you still got to get it from a schematic standpoint.
I don't know if this is evolving. It may just be this is what we have, like you were referring to, Mark, is they value, I think, the possessions a lot more on offense.
Yeah.
Where it's not just bang, bang, bang. Now, with this defense, you can probably do all the tricks and stuff, but I think they value the possessions more where they want a ball control because it's such a weird offense. They struggle on first and second down. But look what they're doing on third down. They're successful on third down.
Well.
How does that make sense?
They make no sense. Listen, they can't pass block or run block, and they're 25th in the country offensively.
I know.
Like what?
And they're 76th in scoring?
Right. Yeah. And the defense, everybody's like, it's the 85 Bears, and they're like 50th. You're like, what?
Ninth in the league.
Now, real quick, you were high on him. I was not. I thought he was transferring. I think it's pretty clear that Ramir is your guy. He's your number one.
Tough back.
I think you need to feed him a lot more, and I want to see not equal carries with Sevion, but Morrison, I think, needs more carries than he's getting.
I agree. I think he's a change-up back. I still don't know what's happening there because Ramir checks all the boxes of what they want out of a running back.
Yeah.
He's tough.
I feel like he's
catch the
close.
ball.
I feel like he's close to breaking one.
Yes, and they actually need that. They need that big time. But I think Morrison is the change-up back. I think Stepp has really fallen out of favor, I think tonight might be a night for Yant as the third guy.
Huh.
Okay, you slimmed down enough?
I haven't seen much out of Stepp to think that he deserves more.
Well, you saw him run for 100, and then he's gotten himself onto a milk carton, and I think there's something going on there.
Attitude. He's not getting the touches, and he's unhappy with that. Sharpie, real quick. Yeah. Elijah, you jumping in here before we say goodbye?
I mean, I can. I was told because of my take yesterday that I had to spend 30 minutes away from the live stream. So
okay, you're right. You're still in timeout. You're still in timeout.
You're in jail. You're in jail, Elijah.
Last thought. Quick timeout. Nick Henrich, our conversation with him to wrap up in a moment. Give me a final thought.
31-17, Nebraska wins. Don't overthink this. Warts and all, I think that's still a good football team, but until they get out of their own way, we won't know, and they're still a 500 football team. But they can set themselves up for a nice little opportunity here by taking care of a team that is anti-Nebraska, that doesn't turn the ball over, doesn't commit penalties, is fifth in the country in punt returns. You find a way to win tonight. And you know what? You welcome Michigan in here next week, and the buzz here in town gets a little bit bigger, and the opportunity is there again. But they have to take care of business tonight, and I don't want to see them get off to a good start, because if not, then you're relying on that defense once again, and there's going to come that one game where the defense struggles. It won't be tonight. This is not a Northwestern team that's going to blow you away, but this will be a Northwestern team that will cause you fits how quickly you get away from them. But I like 31-17, and I don't think the 31-17 close game. I think Nebraska gets up by more than one score and then kind of keeps it that way. Huh. If not, boy, that'll be a tension convention in that stadium.
Yeah, it'll be rough. Gary Sharpie, thanks, brother.
Thanks, guys. Good seeing you, though.
Iron Horse, Mark Kraynak.
Iron Hose.
A quick timeout.
Iron Hose.
Both.
A quick timeout. Wow. Elijah will take us home and our conversation. Nick Henrich.
You can't iron the hose.
It's Hail Varsity Radio weekend here at the Single Barrel. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
With Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery, with Chris Schmidt and Mark Kraynak.
Nick Henrich with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. Nick, let's talk about Coach Ruud real quick and how he's able to connect with you and some of your mates on the interior and what you're able to pick up from him and how inside played great on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Ruud's, he's always been a guy that all the insides have loved because he demands excellence from us, and he has always a big emphasis on the routine and stacking days, and I think that's helped us improve each week, and that's something we're going to need to continue to do throughout the season.
How did you guys get prepped so well for Sparty? I mean, incredible performance, front seven, the entire defense, but specifically with tackling. I know there's limited contact compared to what it used to be, but you guys were dialed in.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're not killing guys in practice, you can still work your tackling. It's all about finishing and near foot up, so that's something we've been really trying to emphasize, and I think that really helped Saturday, just having an emphasis on that. So that's something we're going to need to continue to emphasize and get better on.
What was the communication like from Coach Chenander and the plan, if you don't mind me asking? What was the goal? You obviously don't let Walker get going, but the execution part of it, how well was that managed by the entire defense when it comes to job responsibility and then staying within that?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a huge call list, really. We were just going to play our stuff, and we knew the kind of adjustments they would try and do, so we had adjustments for that, and it ended up working great. Everyone was really doing their job and locked in, so that was huge.
As you guys have gotten back to practice, have you had to pick up the offensive side of the ball or special teams, or is the, I guess, the mojo, is it all right heading into another game?
Yeah, I mean, it's always like, as a defense, we never point fingers. We always look at what we could have done better, and we own it. You know what I mean? So, and special teams as well. Like, there's a lot of defensive guys on special teams. So, when that's not good, it can be a reflection of just still like do your job. That's really just been the emphasis this week.
Do you do much on special teams?
Yeah, I'm on punt. Yeah.
Okay, so take me through a sideline call and then out into action and how miscommunications can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're talking about the one. Yeah, so
punt return.
Yeah. So if the ball's kicked right, like supposed to be kicked right, it's got to be kicked right. But at the same time, like, we can make up for that with effort. You know what I mean? Like, and speed, but it's just about doing your job, and if we're never pointing fingers, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like one play didn't change that game. Like, we could have done a billion different things better on, not a billion, but we could have done things better on defense, and then we would have even been talking about this, you know what I mean? So it's always about just owning your craft and doing your job.
Nick Henrich with us, and we'll get you out of here on this, but at what point did you feel comfortable? You're a pretty high-profile recruit. You've kind of meshed well with that 19 class. You've touched on that and made some really good bonds. But when did you feel really comfortable speed of the game-wise here in college?
Yeah, I mean, it took some time, definitely adjusting and stuff like that, but I wouldn't have changed a thing. I'd probably say Minnesota last year, when I really knew, I was like, okay, like, this is it. Like, I can play and do really well at this level, and you know what I mean? Yeah.
So you just played quite a bit faster?
Yeah, it was kind of my first game playing back at inside after I moved to outside, kind of back in my natural position. I was just like, okay, yeah, like, I got this, you know what I mean?
Last thought here, what are you guys expecting against Northwestern from your own energy and then also the crowd?
Yeah, I mean, Memorial Stadium, you know what I mean? You know that crowd's going to be great. Night game. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to bring the juice, and we know the fans will too.
Nick, good to spend time with you. Thanks.
Yep, thank you.